And I will now hand over to Kais.
Hello, responsible leaders and the booters from all around the world. My name is Kais and I am 11 years old. I am originally from two Mediterranean countries, Tunisia and Palestine, and I currently live in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to this special Oboot talk in collaboration with BMW Foundation, where me and my co-host Piero, who is 12 years old and currently lives in Paris, in France, will be interviewing two responsible leaders. Soraya Hosni, who is based in Sousse in Tunisia and is an entrepreneur in the fields of culture and agriculture, and Adrien Joly, who is based in Marseille in France and is the development director of the MUCEM, a museum devoted to the Mediterranean. Through their work, these two responsible leaders contribute to shaping a better future for the Mediterranean and help advance the Sustainable Development Goals. Piero and I will ask questions to Soraya and Adrien about their journeys and their work, but also about their links to the Mediterranean. We hope that you will enjoy this talk, and I will now be handing you over to Piero to ask the first question.
So the first question was, what do you do for work and how does it link to the Mediterranean?
What do I do? I work for a museum, and the museum is based in Marseille. So, and from where I am, I can show you, I can see the Mediterranean. If you check.
Wow.
So that's a nice view from my office. But that doesn't really help a lot the Mediterranean to see it from my office. So it's we do exhibitions and we try to we work with the countries all around the Mediterranean. We have some exhibitions that travels around the Mediterranean. We also do trainings on curatorship and other museum jobs. So some professionals all around the Mediterranean are coming to the museum. So we are trying to, and we are trying to talk, more importantly, to introduce, to talk about what is, this is a very complicated question of what is the Mediterranean, and to give people a better understanding of this great place, which is, before everything else, I think a fantastic surface of exchange where many civilizations were born.
So what do I do every day? I use my skills and gifts to help people preserve their culture. And by culture, I mean the way they live, their languages, and the way they want to live as well. So currently I am doing this work in Tunisia, based in Tunisia, in the city of Sousse. And I have view on the sea too, but from the rooftop, I'm not gonna go there. But we're working to make people love who they are more, and to also think of how to advance their culture.
All right. So, what does being a responsible leader mean to you?
I guess it's probably the idea that, of course, we are not. I'm just a director in a museum, and what I can do is has effect on my close territory, and but I mean, if every responsibles across the world could do their best, I guess we'll have a better world. So I'm trying to, in my decision, even if I'm not president of France, obviously, but I'm trying to do well, to act in a responsible way. So to act in a way where things will get better or will improve. And I mean, it sounds a bit idealistic, but I'm trying to every little decision to orientate them into, well, with the idea of making a better world, just very modestly.
For me, being a responsible leader is actually a great honor, and I'm very grateful to be part of this community. But more specifically, in my everyday life, it's embodying what how I want to show up in the world, which means like doing business that benefits more than me. It benefits my neighborhood, it benefits my community, it benefits my country, it benefits the environment. This is how I want to show up like in the world. I want my life to be beneficial for more than myself.
So the third question was, where do you work and what does your workplace look like?
It looks very nice, I must say. I mean, I've been very lucky all my life because I've always been in fantastic places, which is something good and something bad, because every time you're thinking of changing a job, and when you are used to being in a very nice office with a fantastic view, that doesn't help, because very recently I was about to change job, and had a job interview, and the job interviews, I showed their offices, and the offices had no sea view, so I said no to the job.
I think that's a very important point. Know your boundaries. Non-negotiable. So for me, it feels really special to be here because I haven't always been here, and here means Sousse, and specifically the Medina of Sousse in Tunisia. And this is where my mother was born and where my grandmother was born, but I was born in Paris. And so for me, being here and working from here feels really special. It looks like a Medina. I opened the window and actually we can see the Medina. This is the Medina. You can't see much of it, but it's the old city. The other view is much better, but I chose the quiet office. So it looks like very vibrant. It's an ancient building that we renovated for 2 years, and it feels really special to be here in the place of birth of my mom and my grandmother.
Okay, so how did COVID impact your work and the Mediterranean?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear very well.
How did COVID impact your work and the Mediterranean?
Well, greatly, I would say, because in fact we are closed. So we were supposed to open in 2 weeks, but it looks like it's not going to happen yet. Our income generation has been very good as well, because we obviously didn't sell any tickets, and we have many projects which are completely locked, and I guess also it has effect on staff. They are a bit depressed for a lot of them. But that's for the bad part of it, and the good part of it is that we've stopped. We had the time to think about what we were doing and how we were doing it, and also we had time to look at the world and see how the world is changing. And I think when we are thinking, we are completely transforming the way we used to work, and hopefully the museum, the MUCEM of after the COVID will be completely different. I mean, it will take time, because transformation always takes a lot of time, even more in the French administration. So I think it's going to take, but we know that we have to transform completely the way we are working, and I think this is very interesting. And it's not only because of the pandemic; it's also we had to do it, but we didn't take the time to do it. Generally, when you work, you deal with things day by day, and and you have your life, and and when we had the first lockdown, I mean, me, I was in the the lucky guy who that everyone hates, who had a country house. And I must say, I was in the country house when the lockdown happened, but anyway, it's not something to be said in France, apparently. And so it was the first time for a long time that I was not running, going to, I mean, going to work, going to a meeting, getting the kids back home, and blah blah, and never stop. And so and the fact that I had time in front of me was great, because I write a 40 pages note on what should be the museum tomorrow, and I'm still working on it, and it's very exciting. So that's a good part of it. Sorry, I was a bit long.
So we are new institution. So we were scheduled to have our opening in July and host resident artists and several other events. And we are people oriented, and our services here at the New Medina are focused on interaction with people. So all of that didn't really happen until now. So we had to reinvent ourselves, and also my work is not just located here, it's also located in Los Angeles and New Caledonia. So that was okay, because I was able to still work with the different communities that I usually work with, since they couldn't also go anywhere. But in terms of Sousse and the New Medina and our initiative here, it's been a little slow, but at the same time, it helped us rethink what are the most needed action items that we wanted to start. And we focused on children, for which was an important point, but not necessarily the main focus. So right now, this is what COVID made us change, is recenter our work around children mainly, and the children of the neighborhood. So having those challenges of not being able to host people helped us rethink what our priorities are.
All right.
So next was, how was your childhood? What was your childhood like?
So
I go next?
I have
You
two
go next?
screens, or sometimes I'm I'm losing the cursors. The childhood was how was it? Could have been better.
I survived it.
It was no, it was. It's not something. It's not. It's hard to say if it was good or bad. What I can say is that I feel better as an adult than as a kid. I think childhood. I mean, I hope it would be the same for you, because if you feel good, you would even feel better. But for me, life went better and better, and childhood was sometimes difficult. I think it's just something. I had anxiety when I was a child, and I'm not really anxious now. But some of my friends went the other way around, you know. So yes, but I hope well. So maybe you didn't expect me to talk about my personal emotion. Was it the question? Sorry. Yeah. Soraya will probably have a better answer. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure. Thank you for being honest. It's a better leadway. My childhood was with very amazing positive memories, and also really ugly memories. I was born and raised in Montreuil, in the suburb of Paris, which was a really beautiful place growing up. I didn't realize all the social challenges that my neighbors and my community was facing, because it was just joyful and very colorful, and from foods from all around the world and languages from all around the world. So that's one of my main memories of my childhood, is how diverse everyone around me was. But being like in France, from Tunisia, and with migrant families, like you don't see it, you only realize it when you're older, like the different difficulties that the family is facing while you're growing up, and then it makes sense later. But I remember having really beautiful memories and very ugly ones. So that's how was my childhood. And between both countries, on both sides of the Mediterranean, I've always been between both sides of the Mediterranean, between France and Tunisia, all my life.
All right. What did your school teach you about the Mediterranean? And if it didn't teach you that much, how did you learn about the Mediterranean?
I don't think. Well, yeah. Well, I think at school you study your the idea we have. I mean, talking about the French schools and Mediterranean, you study antique civilization and you think that's that. In fact, you think that's all about the Mediterranean. You study Egyptian, Greek, and Roman. I've met some people who are grown up and they still think the Mediterranean, that's the only civilization we had. But in fact, of course, fortunately, when you grow up, you learn a lot more. I've learned a lot about the Mediterranean at university when I studied Islamic civilization, which was very interesting. And now, since I'm working for the MUCEM and we've been working a lot on it, I have my view of the Mediterranean has completely changed. When I was your age, for me, it was just a sea where you can go and swim, and which was warmer than other seas because we were going there every summer. But it was a friendly sea. It always has this idea of. Then when you go to the ocean, it's a bit brutal. And the Mediterranean is so I only had this idea, but and I thought it was absolutely huge and big, and then you realize when you grow up that it's a very small sea, in fact, but so important in terms of civilization. Yes, so all through my life, my view, of the Mediterranean has changed, and it's still changing, because and I see that we have a permanent gallery at the MUCEM where we are trying to talk about to show the Mediterranean, and even our understanding of the Mediterranean change in the museum. So I'm more than 40 years old now, and I think last year I read even more on the Mediterranean because we are preparing a new project, and so it's interesting because it's like something which always has been very close to me, but my idea of it has changed through the decade.
If I recall, the question is, what did school teach me about the Mediterranean? And I think school could use an upgrade on what the history of this region is, because there's only some civilizations that get highlighted in the Mediterranean, and very narrow understanding on how diverse this region of the world is and how connected it is, and how much exchanges there've always been between all of the nations around the Mediterranean. And that didn't got taught to me by school, but by my own knowledge and my own research and my own lived experience. So school had a very, very limited window of explanations, for me at least, at the time I went to school, which was 30 years ago. Everything else, I learned it mostly by museums, because museums all around the region are really actually amazing. The Museum of Sousse is actually really high on my list on how how much I've learned from the history of the region, and many other museums can teach us about this region and how beautiful and connected and diverse it is.
Piero, you're muted.
So next there was, who are the Mediterranean leaders that inspired you growing up and why?
You mean in history?
If you had any.
Or the one living today? Because the
In
one living today.
history or
Yes,
presence,
better.
both work.
Well, I would say obviously Julius Caesar, but I don't think it's very politically correct. Maybe, well, he was a great guy, and Abdelkader. I think, yeah, two. Yeah, I like these great characters. I think. Well, there are many, in fact. It's not really a leader, but then I have a historian who talked about the Mediterranean and of course I love Fernand Braudel, but he's not a leader. But when you if one wants to know, one wants to try to understand the Mediterranean, it's the best writer, I think. I mean, there are more recently there were other historians, but yeah, when I started to read his book, my view of the Mediterranean has completely changed, and this, yeah, and forever. But that was not a leader, so sorry, I was but talking about leaders. I would say, yeah, Abdelkader. I like him.
So my favorite leaders are, I think, are all artists. So that's my definition of good leadership. It's inspiring, and it's a window into imagination and discovery. So most leaders from the Mediterranean are those who taught me about the different nations around the Mediterranean and the books that I read. I can cite Jean Genet and his amazing adventures, Mohamed Asaf, Naguib Mahfouz, from both sides of the Mediterranean, just discovering smells and colors. And this is what guided me. And this the type of adventures, because I love adventures. So that's the type of leaders that inspired me, and so many painters also of the Mediterranean and this beautiful region.
Okay, so this is the last question. There are many challenges that face the Mediterranean. If you had a magic wand, what challenge would you try to fix? Like,
well, the Mediterranean is today in a very bad state, ecologically, it's clearly, and also politically. So, I mean, the situation is very bad, and so yeah. I don't know which challenge is the most important. I guess if we had already some politically some more stable situation, and we could do we could start to work and try to sort out the environmental crisis. Well, that's the two. I mean, sorry if I could do one thing, but I would probably try to. Well, my great hope is that we're talking about responsible leaders here. That we will have responsible leaders all across the Mediterranean to really to be able to work together on some crucial questions such as the environment. That's for me.
My magic wand, if I could activate it right now, would be freedom of circulation and economies, of people and economies. Freedom is absolutely the most important things I see in the Mediterranean right now. There's so much drama and dramatic situation, both economically and humanly. So, ta-da! Can we make it happen now, please? Yes. Freedom is for me the most important thing right now.
All right. So since we don't have much time to ask any more questions, thank you, Soraya and Adrien, for the great discussion and for all the things we learned today. Thank you, responsible leaders and Obootists, for listening to this interview. Please tell your friends about Oboot and share our website and social media links with them. And like we always do with all our interviews, we'll be offsetting 1 ton of CO2 for this interview. And we ask you to support our work by purchasing carbon offsets through our website, oboot.co.